This podcast is sponsored by The Groom Man, businessmen styled by tradition in untraditional times. They are proud sponsors of the Your Best Kept Business Secret Small Business News interviews, features and podcasts. Find out more at www.thegroomman.co.uk.
A year ago, people up and down the UK were told to lock their doors, stay home and protect the NHS. A year later, we're told to open our doors when we're told to, stay home if we can, and thank the NHS. Now, in between that, millions of self-employed business owners have had sleepless nights, pivoted so many times that they look like business ballerinas, and all of us watched as the government got to grips with dishing out financial support at breakneck speed. Unless you're in that 3 million. Excluded UK estimates that 3 million of us have been shunned or left out of financial support because of standard circumstances or because of legal financial advice given to business owners in line with HMRC rules and regulations. But with every perfect solution that the government announces, anybody remember the Kickstart campaign heralded by a government with a ridiculously low take-up rate, comes a troublemaker. A troublemaker that gives a voice to a silent majority. A troublemaker with facts, figures, and a dream that if a few simple things were adopted, the world would be a much better place for those 3 million business owners. Today, we welcome Anneka Hicks, founder of Excluded UK, the grassroots non-profit organisation committed to providing personal, business, and career support to those facing hardship as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Anneka is also a very experienced marketer, strategist, and technology. I can't even say that. It has something with technology in it. It's the one word that I wrote down that I shouldn't have written down. But she has technology in it with a deep-rooted passion for helping small business independent entrepreneurs realize their great potential. Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is Anneka Hicks. Hello, Anneka. How are you?
Hello, Mark. Thank you for having me. I'm very well, thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Right. Okay. So obviously we've done a little bit of talking off air, and so there'll be a little bit of a special announcement during this podcast. So people get ready. If nothing else, it'll make you watch for longer than 2 minutes. Right. So I'm going to ask you about why Excluded UK got started in the first place. Why you? Why did you decide to get this thing rolling?
So I started, I've been in marketing for IT telecommunications companies for the last 12, 13, 14 years. I started as a freelancer. I incorporated by accident, and an agency was kind of formed. Basically, it was just a group of us as freelancers. We came together and we landed a big contract which required us to incorporate. So I took the responsibility of incorporating it all, and I was MD and managed all of that. And we grew and we grew, and we got to 9 staff at one point, and it was all going fabulously. We were on track for our top year. 2020 was going to be it, and March 23rd, the announcement came that everything was going to be locked down. That there was everyone was going to have to work from home. I had calls from my clients within a matter of 24 hours to say that our contracts were all being frozen immediately. Unprecedented circumstances. We were a very successful business. We had enough sort of money in the bank at that time to pay us all until sort of August time. But at that point, no one thought it was going to last until August. So when the Chancellor announced the packages to support employees, I cried in my kitchen. I knew that I would be able to get through this with relief. That was, I cried that actually I'd be able to keep my team. We would simply just sit it out like everybody else had to. So I packed them off and told them to enjoy the warm spring weather with their families and the kids off school, and we'd catch up again in a month's time. I realised then, as a limited company director, I was entitled to nothing unless I was to stop doing the sort of remaining 5% administrative stuff that my clients needed from me. I had no staff, they were all furloughed. So I couldn't furlough myself. I couldn't take an income. The business wasn't making a profit, obviously. So I wasn't going to take my dividend, which I usually would. I paid myself in that way on the basis that the income from the business fluctuated month on month. You know, we're an agency, so we took on small projects. I paid myself when I could pay myself, essentially. Being last in line, as you do as a small business owner. All your staff come first. And then it sort of played out and got a little bit longer, and then August approached, and that big red business flag said, eek, if this doesn't turn around quickly, we're in trouble here. Furlough aside. So in May, stepping back a bit, in May I realised that there were a lot more people in my position. In March, I actually joined the Forgotten Limited campaign for limited company directors, and I was kind of relieved at that point that there were 500, 600 other people in the same boat, and we're all thinking we'll get something at some point. Surely they just they're working their way through the list of help, and they're rolling out amazing help for the self-employed. And I guess I'd always classed myself as self-employed. There was always this, and I think as we were speaking off air, there's always been this kind of muddied water misinterpretation of what self-employed is. I fill out a self-assessment form as a self-employed person. I am employed by myself, therefore I am self-employed. And we all realised we weren't entitled to the self-employment income support grants that came round. So the first grant came out. It was, I think, £2,500 a month, capped at £2,500 a month. I wasn't entitled to that. I realised then at that point that there were also a lot of self-employed people that were also not entitled to that for a number of reasons. These cracks started appearing. People that had recently gone self-employed, so couldn't provide the 3 self-assessment three previous years. People that were partly self-employed, so they had a majority PAYE income from a part-time job, for example, and a lesser self-employed income that they were maybe transitioning to building their own business or worked 2 different jobs, that kind of thing. People who had received any other form of income within that 3 years, and that transpired to be, inheritance income, house sale income. So if you'd sadly lost a parent or a relative that in the last 3 years, that automatically left you out of receiving the self-employment benefit that everyone else was getting. And there was lots and lots and lots of these campaign groups popping up. So in May, we decided that actually, the campaign groups themselves were fighting their own battles and doing a very good job at it. We had the Forgotten Limited campaign. There was people, new starters who weren't entitled to the furlough because they weren't employed by a certain date, and all of these technicalities. And we had the brainy idea of really wanting to unite all of those communities, strength in numbers. So we didn't really, I certainly didn't go in with a political aim, to be honest with you. It was more about bringing together all of the people within those communities to see if there was a way that while all of this was working itself out, that we could actually help each other. Limited company directors could maybe pool resources, save their businesses. Self-employed people could team up with other people, get some work. People who were out of work could maybe help out. And, I just had all of these visions of people being able to really share their skills and their experiences and just help each other. And I think by sort of August time, this is about the time as well that my business was really, as an agency, it was starting to become quite obvious that I was going to have to let some of the team go. The contracts weren't picking back up again. There was lots and lots of uncertainty in the telecoms industry, with everyone still working from home. The majority of our clients sold, we helped sell telecoms, so software. So business to business, office communications just was no longer. Everybody was working from home and using Zoom and not using, their desk phones or anything else. So there was just this incredible uncertainty that, what could have been a 2 or 3 month blip was turning into something a lot longer. And on top of that, we were seeing a really desperate need. People were becoming, it was 6 months without any income, You ask anyone who's got a rainy day fund, it doesn't last for 6 months. You don't plan for that, do you?
Were you surprised? Were you surprised by how many people didn't have a rainy day fund?
Yes.
So was I.
Yeah.
I was really shocked.
Yeah, I think I saw myself as one of the lucky ones, because I'd actually, on the 13th of March, I was about to buy a house.
Wow. Okay.
And I remember it was Cheltenham. It's Cheltenham week. I'm a bit of a racing fan. And it was Friday the 13th of March, and I was this close to putting a deposit on a house. And I don't know whether it was just the fact that it was Friday the 13th or the uncertainty, but I didn't put that deposit down. And that's the only thing that's allowed me to get through the last year, is unfortunately that money is what I've now had to live on, because I haven't been able to pay myself anything. I, like many people, just didn't have anything else, to rely on. There were lots of people in serious, starting to get, really, really very depressed, very anxious. And I think it was at that point that we identified the seriousness of what was about to come with the mental health element. Mm-hmm. There were rumours that there had been a couple of suicides. That was obviously just very difficult for us to deal with. And whilst all of the campaign groups at that point had sort of united into, we created the biggest APPG, all party parliamentary group. We got the backing of 270 odd MPs. We were getting daily media. We were getting daily MPs in the House fighting to fill these cracks. But there were a couple of us in the organisation who, really wanted to focus on the people and really looking after the people that were really, really struggling. Mm-hmm. And I guess at that stage, as a marketer, I started questioning how much of an involvement I could have on the front facing of the campaign. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't want to feed the fire. Seeing how serious some of these people were getting with their emotional health, and the increase in people taking their own lives, losing their houses, losing their homes, it was becoming, for me, a very tense community, understandably. There's lots of frustration going on.
Did it sorry to interrupt, but did it have an effect on you? I mean, yeah. in the simple case of, I shared, I know on Twitter, I shared some of your posts because, I'm going to be totally honest, and honest and transparent here, is that I'm one of those 3 million that have been excluded. And I shared a couple of your posts, and there were a couple of times on Twitter that I got some real kickback from people going, oh, the trouble with you lot with Excluded UK is da. And again, when the Chancellor made his announcement back in March and said, the newly self-employed, it's 80% of profit, I was very quick to point out that, if they actually understood anything about small business, they would understand that nobody makes profit in the first year. So 80% of nothing is still fuck all. So, and people were actually criticizing me for pointing out that glaring error. 600,000 sounded great from a headline point of view, but actually you're probably likely to get about 10% of that are actually going to be able to take any money out of it. So how did all this affect you?
Really badly. And it's still actually really difficult to talk about.
We don't have to if you don't want to.
No, I'm happy to, because I think it will resonate with a lot of people. I think we were driving towards this sort of mini budget announcement, November time. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
And media was very high. At this point, we'd run an incredible campaign over the summer, really. If I do say so myself.
You can say so, it's fine.
We did. We'd drawn a hell of a lot of attention to the fact that these people were excluded. We were being referred to a lot daily. We had some incredible supporters and advocates in, Martin Lewis, the money saving expert, was completely behind us all the time. Gina Miller, John Caldwell, all of those MPs that we'd mentioned before. So we were getting the traction. I was doing a bit of press and media, and I was finding it increasingly difficult to talk about the mental health element of what was happening to the people within the community. And as an organisation, we decided to put some of the volunteers through a mental health first aid training course. Because of what they were having to deal with on a day-to-day basis throughout the community. They were kind of constantly hand-holding people who were right at the edge, and it was really hard. And it was at that stage that I realised personally, going through that mental health first aid course, that how much it was actually affecting me. Everything that was being said, everything that I was learning about, all of these triggers that we should be looking out for, I'd brushed under the carpet for too long. I'd spent 7 months probably deliberately distracting myself from what was going on in my own business. And the fact that I'd lost my confidence in, as a business owner, your business is just gone. It's disappeared like quicksand beneath you. There was nothing you could do about it. Nothing anyone could have done about it. And that really kicks you in the guts. And then going towards this little mini budget that the Chancellor was going to announce. And I put this video out to the community and just said how appalled and sorry I was for them. And the response that I found that I got from that really got to me emotionally too. There were people who, thanked me for being so open and honest. And, I think I realised how broken I really was at that point. And I had to take a step back, to be honest with you. I pushed myself to such a limit that at the end of November, I said to the team that I needed to take a couple of weeks off. Total. I just needed to switch off. It was just, everything was just very overwhelming. I did an LBC interview where I broke down, and the clip of me breaking down was being replayed throughout the day with the Chancellor's response to me breaking down after it.
Earlier in the show, I spoke with Anneka Hicks, who's founder of Excluded UK. She was quite distressed. I just want to play you a little of what she told me.
Every time there's an announcement, the volunteer team and myself are inundated with people who don't see any other way out. We even last night we're on red alert, really. We've lost 7 or 8 members of the community within the last 4 weeks. It's just not fair.
Chancellor, that's 7 or 8 people who've taken their lives in the last 4 weeks. They've had no help since March. They had no help yesterday. Why? And when will this change?
Well, Nick, obviously, like this,
and that will haunt me forever. And I felt vulnerable and exposed, and I think I'd admitted to myself finally how I really felt about the situation. And it was during that time that another director who was also working on the mental health element with us. So previous to that, because of all of the difficulties that the community were facing, we were desperately in the background working with a number of partners and charities and service providers and practitioners and counsellors and psychotherapists and hypnotherapists and everything that we could find. And we were desperately just bringing them all together to see if there was any way that we could use their skills and services and help the people within the community desperately. And that's what we did. We were able to roll out fully funded. We fundraised for it. Mental health support and counselling for our members within 24 hours. When I found out, initially, we were directing our members to go to their GP and, holding their hand and doing what we needed to do. But to find out that the GP NHS waiting list for talking therapy is 16 weeks at least, and increasing. I think it's something like 24 now.
Yeah.
Knowing the situation I was in myself with my own emotional health, to be told that I was going to have to wait 4 to 6 months to even talk to somebody about it, while still not having an income and worrying about what the hell my future held, was just heartbreaking. It was just heartbreaking for me, for us. So for us to be able to provide that service for our community was a real turning point for me. And I guess that's kind of where it's brought us to now. So the organisation Excluded UK has now sort of separated, I suppose, into 2 separate forms. So Excluded UK still fully exists and is the engine that it was and always will be until these 3 million people are supported. And that's this is like your big announcement now, isn't it? Yeah, we're moving on to your big announcement. Go on, let's go with it. Come on. Well, we so over Christmas and throughout January, whilst recovering from our own emotional health issues, Melissa Knight and I, who are 2 of the 4 directors of the non-profit organisation Excluded UK, decided to set up Unified, which is a brand new platform that we wanted to be able to provide all of that support. So all of that emotional and physical support that we had sort of harnessed throughout that time and provided support to the Excluded UK community. We identified that there were so many other people out in society that needed that kind of service. It was pretty disgraceful to hear that the NHS, the people on the front line, had no training when they went into any of this. Their emotional health has suffered beyond comprehension. Can you imagine what they have had to do throughout this pandemic? Whipped out of medical school, whipped back from retirement, onto the front line, into wards where people were dying every few minutes, to then have to call their relatives and tell them and know that they're not allowed to come in and see them, to isolate from their own families. All of these people, supermarket workers, didn't have a choice. if they wanted to earn and keep their job, they had to go on the front. They had to serve people, despite the risks that might have been for them. People who were isolating and who have been shielding, and older people who have been just completely cut off from their families. Mothers who have given birth to children throughout this last year who have not had any support. They haven't seen their mental health, they're any kind of provider. Their baby's health hasn't been checked. They haven't been able to go to mother and baby, relationships. The babies haven't met the rest of the families and integrated into society. The problem with the mental health and of people in general is so much greater that we felt that with the research and the experience and the contacts that we had made throughout providing that support to the excluded community, that we could put something like that together to support the wider society. It's very new. It is very new. But it's a passion that it's my purpose in life. I found my purpose in life, genuinely.
You can just tell the way that you're talking about it, and you've come through so much, and I'm genuinely touched that you've opened up as much as you have to me, a complete stranger, to be perfectly honest, apart from sort of like 10 minutes before we started recording this. What if there are two things that you've learned from these last 12 months and wish you'd done better? What would they be?
Hard.
Because let's be fair, you found your passion, and I'm honestly, I'm just saying, I'm incredibly proud of you just for finding that right now. But what two things have you learned?
my passion genuinely was always marketing. I always wanted to find something that I could take to market that really, really, really meant something to me. Mm-hmm. And as much as a geek as I am, and as much as I do love technology, voice over IP telephone systems didn't really hit the nail on the head for me, I've got to admit.
Doesn't exactly. I've got to be honest. As soon as you said that, it doesn't kind of rock my boat either. I've got to be honest.
No. And I knew, what I've learned over my career is, I think, probably just there's always that confidence inside of you, and you have to hold on to it. And if I could give anyone any advice, it is, however low you get, you've got to use that as the foundation to start something anew. And I think you've probably got to find that low to realise where you are. And I think if I could do something better, I would have done what we're doing now earlier, to be honest with you. This pandemic that's going on is only one of, the real pandemic is the mental health pandemic, and there are too many people suffering out there. Normal people who wouldn't ask for help, who probably don't think they need help, who keep putting it aside, just like I have, you have, everybody has. We've had our sleepless nights. We've looked on the internet at 4:00 in the morning, what we can do, how we can pivot our business. Are we strong enough? Are we financially secure enough? We're worried about our children. We're worried about the future. We're worried about what this pandemic means to society in general going forward. What is the new normal? All of these anxieties and worries have a huge impact on us as a human being. And that's where the passion is, my passion now is to help every other human being find their balance. they have to know what the core issue is to be able to address it. If you're stressed and you're uptight and tense, then the aches and pains that you would normally get are going to be increased. I also suffer with fibromyalgia, which was something that I was diagnosed with a couple of years ago, which basically means all of the fibrous tendons and ligaments in my body are pretty much useless. If I was a cat, I would have been put down a long time ago.
Okay, there's an analogy I never thought I'd hear today.
My brain still works, and I know what it's like to live with chronic pain, and I've had my own depressive episodes throughout my life, my early 20s, and I've come through it. And the last 6 months emotionally for me have been the hardest of my life, and it all kind of came to that point. And I want to use the contacts and the experience and the people that are so amazing to help other people get through it like I have. I'm still not through it, don't get me wrong. I've still got a long way to go. But I found my purpose, and it's about finding your purpose and finding your core and going for it. And if that means helping other people along the way, then do as much of that as you possibly can, because the reward of that is worth more than any money anyone could ever give me. Genuinely. I've never felt so rewarded in what I'm doing.
You've been on a hell of a journey.
Yeah.
And I think the question I really want to ask you right now is that maybe it's a little bit too soon right now, but will you be able to look back over the last 12 months with some pride in what you were able to achieve?
Without any shadow of a doubt. I'm so incredibly proud of what we have all achieved. I'm proud to have worked with such an incredible team, and it restored my faith in humanity and humankind, working with and building a community of people that were so generous and so giving and so passionate, to the detriment of their own family life, their own businesses. They were giving to other people, to support other people. And I just want to keep living that.
No, that's beautiful. Honestly, that's just amazing. That really is. If we look at the sort of coming up last question, because it's hell, not even I didn't expect this, because it's I can just feel the emotion just coming through the screen at me. To be perfectly honest, you're probably gonna have a lie down in a dark room after this interview. But what? If we sort of things are starting to open up again, and everybody keeps banging on about the 21st of June, going to be one hell of a party here in the UK. I would suggest that the 22nd of June is going to be one hell of a hangover day. But if we could look sort of just past that, what two things would you hope that us as a small business community, and as the UK, will do differently going forward in the next 12 months compared to where we were
Support each other.
Pandemic?
Support each other.
Yeah.
That's all it can be. We have to support each other. We've been in a commodity-led, throwaway, I want it, I've got it, I'll rent it type security, society for far too long. It's been, climb the ladder and get to the top and have the biggest house and the best this and everything else. And actually, I think what the last 12 months has taught people is that it's not about that. Or certainly the people like you and I, you know, the people that have really struggled through the last 12 months. Don't get me wrong, there's an equal amount of people who have benefited considerably
Yes.
in the last 12 months.
Yes, there are. God bless them all and all who sail in them. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what the last 12 months has taught us is that, you know, it's okay to ask for help. We are self-sufficient, self-supporting, you know, as entrepreneurs, as small business owners, we are strong, and we need to find that strength again if we've lost it. But we also need to start putting the priorities in the right place. And that priority, unfortunately, for many of us to admit, it has to be you. You have to put yourself first. You have to find how you can recover. And it's different for everybody because we're all unique. And this is what the whole unified thing was all about. You know, we've got to be able to find the right support for ourselves to be able to go forward and make sure that the next 12 months are really, really positive for us as people. And a huge part of that is just help your neighbour, but help yourself first.
Yeah, that helps. Mate,
you can't from an empty cup.
No, it's true. That's very true. Mate, how can people get in touch with you? How can they link up with you? How can they communicate with you? Where can they find you?
Oh, Google me, you'll find me, unfortunately.
There's a phrase you never thought you'd say after 12 months. Yeah. I'll just Google me.
God, no. Don't Google me. I take it all back.
They'll bring up that LBC clip again, I tell you.
No, don't make me cry. You can find me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, and we're at unified.co.uk if you're interested in joining the human rebalance revolution that we're trying to roll out. But bear with us because it's really, really new. You've got the exclusive here, Mark. There you go.
Wow, there you go. Again, something else I never thought somebody'd say to me in 12 months. Thank you. Anneka, do you know what? You are a special type of human being. You are an amazing young woman. You have, honestly, you are going to touch the lives of so many people. It's been absolutely a joy, in an odd way, to speak to you. No, to find somebody really, very. I think inspirational is a word that's overused in this country. When people sort of burn their tongue on a Starbucks and then go and sort of deliver a speech to 22 people at a WI meeting, they call them inspirational. That is not inspirational. You have, you've just gone out and you've just gone and done it. And the fact that you've been so honest and open about the effect that it's had on you, I think it's very brave. And hopefully people can take something from that and be brave in their own way about opening up to other people. I really genuinely look forward to keeping a tab on you and your career.
Thank you.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Anneka, really.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.
This podcast is sponsored by The Green Man, businessmen styled by tradition in untraditional times. They are proud sponsors of the Your Best Kept Business Secret Small Business News interviews, features and podcasts. Find out more at www.thegroomman.co.uk.
And that's it for this particular podcast. Well, you can't say that wasn't a bit of an emotional ride, was it? An amazing young woman. And it looks like that she will find success and touch so many people in so many different ways in the coming years, months, days, etc. If you want to find more articles that can help you grow, monetize and market your business, go to our website, bestkept.businesssecret.co.uk. And if I can help you in any way, come and find me at markford.uk. I've been Mark Ford, you've been brilliant, and I'll see you on the other side. Take care.